We start off the SportsMax Zone with cricket. It seems as if defending Caribbean Premier League champions, the Jamaica Tallawahs, will be under new leadership in the upcoming season. As sources claim that the man who captained the Talawas to success in the 2022 season, Rovman Powell, is likely to be traded to the Barbados Royals in exchange for leg spinner Hayden Walsh Jr. Well, this comes as a shock as Powell just enjoyed an extremely successful year in Jamaican cricket, not only captaining Talawas to glory, but also the Jamaica Scorpions to 50-over success for the first time in 10 years. If Powell were to be traded, it would mark the third local superstar which the Talawas would have let slip out of their hands, having lost Chris Gayle to St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots a year after he captained the Talawas to glory in 2016, and Andre Russell to the Trinbago Knight Riders in 2022. Well, joining us to try and make sense of it all is cricket commentator Nikhil Uttamchandani. Good afternoon, Nikhil.
Hi, good afternoon, Maria. How are you?
I'm okay, just a bit confused because I always feel like when somebody's doing well, we try our very best to keep them very close. And of course, everybody wants a successful team. Everybody likes to win. So what's happening here?
I think, very surprising, especially given I listened to Rovman Powell at the presentations, even after that Super 50 triumph. He always speaks about how much he loves representing Jamaica, how much it means to him to sort of bring through the younger players from his home country and sort of bring them to this level. I think his captaincy has been probably the main reason why the Talawas were successful last year. I think it's a huge shock, and it will send some shockwaves through the entire league. And clearly there's a bit more to it as well, because I don't necessarily think it's mainly just a tactical switch in the sense that the Royals, of course, they've got several leaders in that side. We saw Kyle Mears be vice captain. Obviously, we saw David Miller captain the team last year, and there's Jason Holder as well. And for the Talawas as well, they've had their fair share of overseas spinners. So clearly there's a bit more to this that I think needs some further investigation.
Yeah, definitely. For me, a lot of things are not adding up. And of course, we will continue to try to track the story and, find out more information. But Nikhil, Rovman Powell again, talking about him and the success that he has achieved. Now, let's just say all of this really comes, to reality and he has to go to the Barbados franchise and whatnot. Do you think it'll be a good fit? And of course, let's talk about the fact that the Talawas would be, having a major loss. This would be a major loss to them because apart from being a great leader, he is an all-round player. He contributes.
Yeah, I think, when you look at both sides, let's start with the Jamaica Tallawahs. Obviously, I think they've got the short end of the stick because if we match up the two teams in the Royals and Talawas, who conveniently enough went to the final last year of the CPL, many people would have expected the Royals to win. I think it's a testament to how good Rovman Powell was as captain in the fact that the Talawas were able to win the championship. You look on paper and you think about names like Quinton de Kock, Jason Holder, Mears, etc., and it was definitely on paper a stronger team. They had played better cricket coming into that final, but I think Rovman Powell just showed the importance of having good leadership and also having a good tactician. And to me, that made a big difference. So now the finals rematch happens, and here's one team losing their captain who was so significant and the other one gaining. For the Royals, I think, not sure what the status of David Miller will be with all the cricket happening, but if they don't retain Miller this season, here you are replacing him with the current West Indies T20 captain and a man who I believe is the best leader in the Caribbean.
Yeah, Nikhil, does this latest development trigger thoughts of some instability in the Talawas setup? Because we referenced, them losing Gayle and also losing Andre Russell in the past 4 or 5 years. And there's also the issue of not staging any home matches. The local media had a lot to say about that recently when the venues were decided for the 2023 tournament, that the Talawas would be the only franchise not actually hosting matches. So it just, serves up some thoughts of instability in the Talawas franchise.
I think massively, Lance. When you look at the track record of this Talawas franchise, and as you guys mentioned at the top of the show, Russell, Chris Gayle, two of probably the generational talents that the Talawas have brought through, two Jamaican-born players. they being forced to leave and citing the fact that, they've not been happy at the Talawas. And then I think back to years like, a couple of years ago in the CPL, instead of going to Jamaica, went to Fort Lauderdale, and that was treated as the Jamaicans' home venue. So I think it's really been a funny one in terms of the way the Talawas have gone. However, I was of the impression that win that they got in 2022 was exactly what they needed to just bring the franchise together and almost have a reform. You have new coaching in Shivnari Chanapal, Sir Curtly Ambrose and Andre Coley. And of course, you have a captain in Rovman Powell who's finally gotten that success, went on to win the Super 50 with similar players in the Scorpion setup. I thought that was exactly what they needed. And for me, that's why something like this becomes an even bigger shock.
Yeah, and this story hasn't yet been signed off on, Nikhil, but we remember on the eve of, or not even on the eve, the advent of both Gayle and Andre Russell leaving the Talawas, they had some pretty caustic comments about the franchise. They didn't leave amicably. They had a lot of negative things to say about the franchise. We haven't heard anything from Rovman, and as I said, the story isn't cast in stone yet, but, when we reflect on how Gayle and Russell left, it just leaves a bitter taste in the mouth.
I think there has to be questions asked because, I know the saying 100 Frenchmen can't be wrong, but when I look at the Talawas setup, these are three players who have been successful in franchises all around the world, and three massive players too for the Talawas franchise. So for all three of them to have to leave, especially Powell, after gaining that sort of success, winning a trophy, I can understand the other two, someone like Andre Russell, may have wanted to go in pursuit of a championship, and the Talawas had some really dark years. But after winning the tournament, then you walk away, especially as captain, being probably 80% of the reason why your team was able to get over the line. Being able to sort of generate that belief within his teammates, I think he's such a good encourager in terms of getting the most out of individual.
Yeah, and we remember
after all of that, then to want to leave.
Yeah,
I just can't understand it.
Yeah, and I remember a few years ago when the Talawas had a couple of games in Florida and not at Sabina Park, the CPL organizers referenced the fact that they weren't getting government support from Jamaica as they did in other territories, which is part of the reason why financially it is not viable to stage matches at Sabina Park because of a lack of government support, which, from a developmental standpoint would sort of bother cricket fans, wouldn't it?
I think, look, cricket, especially the CPL, needs to be played at Sabina Park. If you want to generate that interest in the younger players especially, the CPL is probably the biggest tournament that we host in the Caribbean, and countries will really look forward to, not only for the financial benefit, but I think for younger players having the ability to see that sort of high caliber cricket, but also the development of facilities, the development of resources. So I think there's a lot more to it. And for me, I think Jamaica cricket could really take a big hit, not only from losing Powell, but again, not having any cricket at Sabina Park in terms of generating that interest. So yeah, a lot of negative things happening around that franchise, and I hope things can be rectified soon. Yeah,
and before we leave that topic, Mara did reference Powell's joining the Barbados Royals. You've been close to the Royals setup, and you've been a CPL expert, to be frank. How much stronger would the Royals be with Rovman in their setup? With joining a lot of other big names already.
But when I look at that core, especially, forget the overseas because we're not sure about their status, but I look at Raheem Cornwall, Kyle Mears, Jason Holder, on and on. I just think you add a Rovman Powell who can actually lead that group of men. I just think, wow, the possibilities are endless, especially given how dominant they have been in the last season. And now they've got really good administration under the Rajasthan Royals franchise. I think really the sky is the limit for that team. And surely they'll be looking to do one better and get over the line with a new captain if he does come over.
Yeah, Nikhil, and of course, I just hope that, the Jamaica Tallawahs, they sort out their issues, because you don't want to be defending champions and then you come into a brand new season after being on such a high and, you start with such low spirits. I feel like it's just not a good look for Jamaica, especially because they've waited so long for the title. They finally got it, and I felt as if things were going well. But we're going to move along now because the Indian Premier League, it continued today. And Jason Holder and Shimron Hetmeyer's Rajasthan Royals defeated the Chennai Super Kings to go to the top of the IPL table. So this is the IPL table, and of course, having played 8 matches, we can see now the Rajasthan Royals at the top of the table on 10 points. Gujarat Titans, they also have 10 points, but Rajasthan gets the edge, of course, on net run rate. Chennai Super Kings also have 10 points, having played 8 matches. Then in 4th position, Lucknow Super Giants on 8 points. They played 1 match less than the Chennai Super Kings and Rajasthan Royals. Then as we continue to look at the table, Royal challenges Bangalore on 8 points and Punjab Kings as well on 8 points. Then Kolkata Knight Riders, after that last win, they have 6 points. Mumbai Indians on 6. And at the bottom of the table, Sunrisers Hyderabad on 4 and Delhi Capitals on 4. Well, the Royals, they batted first and posted 202 for 5 with Hetmeyer making 8. Holder did not bat but bowled 4 overs and went for 49 runs and took no wickets. Let's take a look at those highlights.
Highlights of that first innings, of course, much was expected from the openers. They've had a really good run with the bat, and Jaiswal was superb in that first over.
Josh Butler wasn't to be left too far behind. Both of them complement each other so well. One the left-hander, one the right-hander, making it very, very difficult for the bowlers to bowl their lines and length. Jaiswal was in particularly good form. Butler too. What their partnership showed is this is such a good pitch to bat on. What an audacious but brilliant shot that was from Jaiswal. That was the first wicket. Played the bowling flat. And then Jaiswal continuing to impress with some magnificent stroke making. High catch. Ruturaj Gaikwad isn't going to miss those. Neither will Ajinkya Rahane. No clue. But then Devdutt Padikkal coming in and taking heavy toll of Patirana. Patirana's 4 overs cost 48. Jurel, that again was a gift. This one was a little bit lucky, but in the T20 cricket it doesn't matter. And you do not take a chance against Dhoni. Do not take a chance against Dhoni.
Review some of the highlights of the run chase with Devon Conway struggled tonight unusually. The good players do lose their rhythm. He did hit the odd boundary to start. Gaikwad, though, was the one in better touch.
6 wickets fell in the CSK innings. Gaikwad unfortunately was dismissed a little bit early, but he was the one that was going, as you said, Ian Bishop. Devon Conway just couldn't get going. Couldn't find a way where they've been so good previously. And I think the slowness of this wicket as well didn't help the cause for CSK. The best batting conditions with early. Good catch from Padikkal there. In fact, some really good catches all around. Josh Butler adding to the equation. Kevin Peterson said that this was his favourite ball swinging around. Raidu gone. A good catch from Holder before. Owen Ali struck away nicely. Again, by that stage, Bish, there was just so much to do in the game. Shivan Dubé showed some glimpses of possibility, of hope for the CSK fans that turned out tonight. Went on to a couple of long balls from Adam Zampa, who hung in there at great figures of 3 for 22. Great courage, Moeen Ali. Off-pace deliveries was the key, and bowling out of the arc of dangerous players like Jadeja, who got the odd boundary but never really found tempo. Just good depth quality bowling, good execution, as they talked about.
Yeah, in the end, there was some good overs bowled, and the bowling figures don't necessarily reflect how effective they were. Of course, both innings, to be honest, bowling in the depth is a tough job, but a happy Sanju Samson, happy Rajasthan Royals supporters.
Peace.
Sanju Samson won the toss, elected to bat first. He got to 202 for 5, Jaiswal 77, Dhruv Jurel with 34 from just 15, and then the Super Kings couldn't fly out of the blocks and fell some way short by 32 runs.
Nikhil is still with us. Nikhil, of course, a disappointing loss for the Chennai Super Kings, but of course an exciting win for Rajasthan Royals. Rajasthan Royals, getting the job done and moving to the top of the table.
Yeah, it was a massive clash given the way that the teams were sort of seeded coming into it. But when I look at that Rajasthan Royals side, I think perfect example of excellent recruitment. When I look at the players that they brought in, and even today's performance, you look at Dhruv Jurel with that 34. Padikal has been there now for 2 seasons, but they brought him in there last year. And then even Jason Holder, who didn't have the best of days today, and Adam Zampa. For me, Holder's provided a lot of balance for that team, even though he hasn't done much with the bat as yet. And Adam Zampa, with his leg spin you saw on a pitch, that was really good for batting. He just stifled the opposition, and he's been doing that throughout the season. So I think you look at the most balanced sides in the competition. To me, I would pick both the teams that played today, but Rajasthan Royals, for me, just have the slight edge, and I think they're big favourites to do one better than last year and go all the way.
Yeah, and good batting from Rutraj Gaikwad, that 47, of course, setting up the Chennai Super Kings. But, of course, in these competitions, you can get the starts that you need, but if you don't continue to capitalize on it. And I was disappointed in Chennai because they are known for having big totals when it comes to the bat. So today, looking at them, falter in this manner, I thought I was watching a different team.
Yeah, it's funny, to be honest, because I just thought they never really got the rhythm that they needed.
Yeah.
And 200 on the board, scoreboard pressure always going to be tough. But they only got 42 in the power play. And from there, it was really tough for them to build momentum. I think, again, the way Zampa bowled, continuously taking wickets, he only went for 22 runs on a pitch where the ball really came onto the bat and there wasn't much in it. I felt that really changed the game. So, look, I think Chennai will still be in a very good position after this, and I think they'll still be able to come back because of the options that MS Dhoni has at his disposal. And when you're talking about senior guys like Jadeja, Dhoni, Gaikwad has had, I can almost call him senior now because he's just been so consistent for them, Devon Conway as well. Really and truly, I think they're both teams in a really good position to qualify for that top 4. And yeah, I think the other 2 spots probably up for grabs a bit more.
Yeah, before you go, Nick, a quick comment on Jaiswal, the 21-year-old. Your thoughts on him? He's been on a roll, really. 44, 47 and 77 in his last 3 innings. And he did have half centuries earlier in the season against the Capitals and the Sunrisers. Pretty special 21-year-old, it seems.
Massive, massive talent. I think anytime we talk about Rajasthan's openers, and we're not speaking about us, but it tells you how good that other person really is. But I look at the way he went about today's innings, just demonstrative and very silky smooth, plays the ball extremely late. And I think last season had a sort of a blip throughout the middle of the season, but this year I think has really shown that maturity and growth from 2022 to 2023. And I think if he continues to get performances like this, he challenges a guy like Quad, Ishan, Kishan, Shubman Gill and those other openers, who knows, he could be opening for India very soon.
Yes, Nikhil, and of course the top of the table still very tight, which means the competition is very open. And of course, as always, we welcome your expertise on the zone and we look forward to chatting with you. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks a lot for having me, guys. Cheers.
All right, Nikhil Uttamchandani there, our cricket analyst, and of course, we always enjoy his insight. Well, cricket fans, don't you forget, the Indian Premier League continues Friday on SportsMax at 9 a.m. if you're in Jamaica, 10 Eastern Caribbean time. Lucknow Super Kings, Lucknow Super Giants, Lance. The team of West Indians Kyle Mayers and Romario Shepherd and Nicholas Pooran will go up against the Punjab Kings. We'll be back in a moment. More SportsMax Zone after this. Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.